Okay, guys. Yes, I said I was going to do Go-Onger next, and that is officially a lie. Spring break for me was about 2 weeks ago, and I just did the diary interview like, what, a week or so beforehand. And okay, I'm doing these in order, so let me go ahead and do Go-Onger, but I wanted to rewatch it. But I was already like 10 episodes in rewatching Shinkenger, so I decided, like, okay, let me just rewatch Shinkenger, and I'll do it, and then I'll rewatch Go-Onger. So I'll be doing Shinkenger and Go-Onger out of order. So this is Shinkenger, not Go-Onger. Sorry. Okay. So Shinkenger is, I'm just gonna go ahead and spoil my thoughts on the whole thing. It's my favorite season up to this point. And with how attached I've become with the season, I don't think I'm gonna like any season more than it now. I mean, look, I've even got, I just put the camera on here, I'm not taking it off, but I got a figure art Shinken Red last 2 weeks ago, and he's just sitting right there next to Gridman. I might talk about him sooner or later. But people have been skeptical. I mean, people that have been watching Power Rangers and not Sentai or haven't seen Shinkenger yet are kind of skeptical about it because I don't like Saumrai. It's bad. I'm afraid to watch Shinkenger. Just don't give me that crap. I said the same thing about Bokenger because Overdrive was terrible, and I've kind of watched about what 4 or 5 episodes of Go-Onger. It's actually been pretty interesting. So I'm gonna have to finish Go-Onger sooner or later. So Shinkenger was the second season I watched, but it was the first season I'd completed from, like, I'll explain when I get to Go-Kaiser. I kind of skipped around a lot in Go-Kaiser because I was afraid of spoilers. I managed to avoid most of the ones I care about, but I didn't really watch Go-Kaiser completely. So this was the first season I really watched in its entirety. And there was just something about it right out of the gate that I really, really liked. So before I start talking about the story here, for some reason I'm having trouble, and you'll really have noticed this in my Die Ranger review, and I'm really sorry that review turned out as bad as it did. But for some reason, when I'm talking about these Sentai ones, I keep forgetting the order in which things happen. So I've got an episode guide here in front of me that I will look at to try to keep things in order without stumbling over myself. Yeah, I just finished rewatching this season, but I have a feeling that it's going to happen to me anyways. So if I like pause and sit there stare at the screen for a little bit as I'm trying to, get my head together. So, without further ado, the season begins probably as well as you possibly could with our Shinken Red, Lord Shiba Takaru. These creatures called the Gadoshu come out of a crevice, basically like a crack in between walls or something. They basically enter and exit through cracks. And they came out and attacked this kid. He changes into Shinken Red and just mops the floor with them with the Shinkenger theme going on. It was a fantastic way to start the season. G, who is basically the mansion housekeeper of the Shiba mansion, says that the Gadoshu are getting stronger by the minute, by the day, and he needs to call for the other samurai that have been training on their own times to come and team up and fight them off, because eventually he's going to need the help. Tuggeru, being kind of snobby at this point, says, I don't need their help. I've been doing just fine without them. So, he's the main, yeah, okay, here we go. Dokuku's ship arises. Now, Dokuku is the leader of the Gadoshu at this point. Well, I mean, at this point. I'm assuming there were some leaders before him, because they, in some ways, hinted that he's not the first and only leader of these mutant things. So at this point right now, he is the leader. And he has his little octopus dude, and I keep forgetting his name because they never really said it too much. I think this is the guy's name. Yeah, Shatari. Shatari. For some reason, I never learned his name. His name is Shatari. If you've watched Saumrai, his name is Octaru, which works, but Shatari is basically Dokuku's right-hand man. He's the brains behind Dokuku. And you've got Taiyu, or Dayu. There's been like 2 different sub-names, but it's Taiyu, and she's sitting over there playing her little, crap, what was the thing called? I'm just going to call it banjo. I know it's not what it is, but that's what I'm going to call it. And this song becomes like a staple of Dokuku, because they'll explain that later. So they send out a main Giddo, which is basically the main monsters of the season. G sees this, and he summons for the other samurai. We see them all doing different things. Blue is a kabuki dancer. If you don't know what kabuki is, look that up. It's a very, very interesting Japanese tradition. It's like a dance act thing. It's kind of hard to explain. Shake is a student at college, and he plays Tekken 6 a lot, which I have to give him thumbs up for because I'm big in the fighting game community, so I kind of like seeing that. Mako is, I'm assuming, Pink is Mako, by the way. I'm assuming she's working at a preschool. And Kotaha is playing her flute, because that's like her staple. They get summoned, and they all meet up in a place. They're confused, trying to figure out who Shinken Red is. They're like asking around, are you red, are you red, are you red? And then Takeru comes in on a horse, basically says, don't accept these Shoto phones, which is their henshin device. It's a phone that can fold over and have a brush that they write kanji. Yeah. It's how they write kanji. If they write the kanji of their element, they change into the Shinkenger. And if they write something else, it'll form in front of them, which is kind of nice because they have like an instant whatever the heck I want device right here. You just got to know how to write the kanji. So they all take them and they change into the Shinkenger and do their job. Now, Sentai always has an excuse on why the monsters grow. Well, it's actually kind of decently established in this season that Giddo have 2 lives. Basic life and then the second life. When they die, they grow and it's their second life. So they summon their origami, which are the mechs of the season. They're, they're like little shapes, and then they open up into animals. Yay! The origami. I think up to this point my favorite mechas are the engines, and once again those will be mentioned a lot in Go-Onger. I love the engines. They've got such personality. They're just like their partners almost. So they beat this guy on the first try. And then we start to learn a little bit about the characters. Ryosuke, Blue, is a kiss-up. Shake doesn't care. He's a bit of a clown. Mako is kind of the mother figure, and Kotaha is the little sweet girl, sweet innocent girl. They form Shinkeno in the next episode, which is basically their mecha, and he looks really, really cool. Shinkeno is going to get a lot of attachments here. So as the episodes go by, we get introduced to the Kabuto origami, or the Beetleboard. Kabuto origami, which the Shinkeno to become Kabuto Shinkeno. Then we get introduced to the swordfish. I forgot what that thing was called. I think the Saru origami. It becomes Shiru Shinkeno, and then the Tora, or the tiger origami. And they all come together and they become Daikaio. No, that's later, right? No, Daikaiu, I believe, is like a bird thing that they all fuse together. And then they all hook to Shinkano to become Daikai Shinkano. Somewhere in here, we get introduced to a wandering samurai type dude. He's later introduced as Juuzo. Juuzo is going to become a major part of Shinkenger. The first time we see him is when Shinken Red is dealing with a Giddo, and he shows up. Actually, the first time he shows up is when Taiyu is about to get killed after stealing brides. Yeah, she steals brides. He shows up in the next episode or so and fights Shinken Red along with the Giddo, trying to find a samurai worthy to quench his thirst of battle. We'll learn a lot more about Juuzo as the season goes along because he's got a really, really disturbing backstory. Nothing. We have some filler episodes. We have Daikai Shinkano show up a little bit after that. Next episode after that happens. Yeah, I'm burning through this story a little bit fast for now. So we reach episode 16, and we are introduced to a sushi seller named Kenta. He basically fires a note into the mansion that says, "Coming soon." And they run into him handing out flyers because Takaru is basically being stalked by a Giddo who's like watching him, and he's freaking out. So he went to go find, a way to hide from him and draw him out, which basically like hides underwater and his presence weakens. It shows off how smart Takaru is. Kenta's handing out these flyers and it's coming soon on, and they figure out that he's the one that shot the thing through their window. So they chase him down. He's a nutball. He makes these amazing faces where he figured it out. Like Mako was like, "Is this yours?" He's like, He makes faces like that all the time. He was like, "Oh my god, they figured me out," and then he just takes off running with his sushi cart. And then Ryosuke and Mako go to help out Takaru, and they call Chake and Kotaha to help him out, and he just chases him down with the sushi cart. This guy has basically got the Shinkengers on the ropes. He calls them to demorph, even though that's a Power Rangers term. Just go with it. And he shows up and he throws exploding chopsticks because those things blow up on contact with enemies, apparently. He brings out his thing called the sushi changer, which when you close it, it looks like a thing of rice. And then when he puts the disc on it, it looks like sushi on rice. It's weird looking. And he turns into Shinken Gold, which is our 6th Ranger of the season. And I haven't established the fighting style for the Shinkengers yet, so I'm going to go do that before I talk about Kenta here. Their weapon, these Rangers fight a lot differently than the Rangers from previous seasons for the fact that they don't use martial arts. They're samurai. They use swords, and their sword is called the Shinken Maru, or virtual playback katana. Basically, they put a disc on it, and it reads the disc, and depending on what disc it reads, it does something different. They all have a black disc, which is just called like the plain disc. It turns their Shinken Marus into their specialty weapons. Shinken Red gets the Rekka Daisato. Best way that I can describe it is if you've ever played Soul Calibur, it's basically what Nightmare and Siegfried uses. It's a giant, I think the sword is called a Flambert, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a European double-handed sword. Blue gets the water arrow, and it's just a crossbow type thing. Green gets the wood spear, which is a giant lance with a dagger on the end of it. Kotaha, or yellow, gets the land slicer, which is like a 3-bladed boomerang thing. Pink gets the heaven fan, which is just one of those oriental fans, but it's able to control the wind and whatnot. But if they put their origami discs on, their swords are able to use their respective elements: red, fire; blue, water; green, wood; yellow, earth; and pink, heaven. is what they use it as, but it's really wind. But they use the term heaven. That's how the Shinkenger fight. There is no martial arts. They'll occasionally Sparta kick people, but that's about it. But Kenta Gold here has this thing called the Sakuramaru. He uses fights with a style called Yai, and I did some study on Yai. It's a unique Japanese fighting style where they draw a sword from the sheath and then put it back in the sheath, and it's like a quick strike sword style. I couldn't find any videos of people actually doing it because I wanted to see how it looked in real life, but it's a really, really fast strike, no hold barred, however you say that type of fighting style. But Kenta uses it his own way. He backhands, which it's supposed to be front hand. Once again, if you go to Soul Calibur, if you've ever played Soul Calibur 5, and you know Alpha Patroclus, if those like two of you that know what I'm talking about, that's basically what he's doing. He strikes and then puts it back in the sheath, and he uses the sheath as like a shield thing, and it's kind of got some sharp edges on it that he can cut with too. But he strikes really, really fast, and he's a little bit more mobile because he has both hands free and everything, and it's a very, very interesting fight style. He puts his disc on. He doesn't have a secondary weapon, but he does have he doesn't even have well, his element is light, but he never really uses it. He puts his disc on and he uses this thing called the 1,000-piece, got the hiccups. He's got this thing called the 100-piece drop, which is basically like he just cuts the crap out of him. The Godu grows. They form Daikai Shinkano. They're having trouble. He summons the Ika origami, or the squid origami. This stuns Takaru. He's like, Ika. Kenta helps beat them. And then Takaru says, "You're Kenta, right?" We find out the next episode that these are childhood friends, back when Takaru was learning how to be a samurai. Those two were like best friends. Kenta was the son of a sushi seller. I'm reading here real quick. Okay. He was the father of a sushi seller. They had to move because their store closed, so Tagaru, as like a farewell gift, gave Kenta the Ika origami if Tagaru promised to let him be a samurai when they were older. Tagaru at first doesn't accept Kenta into the group for the fact that he thinks having a friend with him will make him weaker. But then, after a while, Kenta drills it into his head about the promise they made, and then Takaru caves, and he's like, "It was a promise, man," so he gives him back, and then the 6 Shinkenger fight on. Give me a second. We later find out that, the Shinkenger here, that's something I have to explain before I can go into this too. The kanji that they write, it's fed off of a power called Mojikara. And Mojikara is basically like their energy to use kanji's powers and stuff. And it's like, the best way I can describe it is like it's a key thing. I guess that'd be the best way to describe it. And they have to use some of this to use like their different things, and to even control the origami Shinkeno, they have to use Mojikara. Kenta has had no samurai training whatsoever, so he doesn't know how to use Mojikara. He made the sushi seller, sushi changer. Okay, sushi changer on his own, and it basically replicates Mojikara in an electronic fashion. So he has more than the others do via the fact that he can manipulate it. He made the Shinken Gold powers on his own, and then he's used that power to make an Iba origami or a shrimp origami. This basically becomes Kenta's main mecha. It's able to turn into, now let me get my name right here, Daikaio. It has 4 forms, one based off of each direction, north, south, east, west. They each have different fighting styles. He's able to complete it to draw out a Godot that put Kotoha on death's door. And this thing is interesting because, like I said, it has 4 different fight styles. I'm not going to go over each one, but it's all situational. So, a few episodes later, they have to combine the two due to them getting kind of shelled. Hold on, I'm trying to remember what happened in this episode. Oh, right. How did I forget about this? So, G explains that the Godot are getting stronger. So we need to pull the power of the magic Aramaru. Or in Samurai, Power Ranger Samurai, it's known as just the black box. Aramaru. So they have to go to the old, I forgot what the temple was named, but it's owned by the Shiba clan. To basically get the thing and have it completed. They get there, and Shotaro basically drugs their tea and puts Toguro like in a poisonous state. Kenta goes one-on-one against the guy, against Shotaro, and Juuzo comes by and takes Toguro away. Now, up to this point, Juuzo, we don't know much about him. He's just a wandering samurai who pleasures himself by using his sword on people. It sounds demented, right? It's going to get more demented as I explain him. So, him and Dokuku don't like each other. So Dokuku's kind of bullied him a little bit. He takes Toguro away because he wants Toguro to live because he sees him as the main enemy, the one that can satisfy his thirst for a true samurai duel. They get the Aramaru. They leave Kenta to try to complete it because of his, like I said, his easy ways to manipulate Mojikara. He needs Mojikara to finish the thing. So they leave him to it, and they go and try to find... No, they don't try to find Toguro because they know where he is. Kenta knows where he is. They try to fight off the Godot that they were fighting earlier. He finishes the Aramaru while Dokuku is explaining to Toguro what he's about. Toguro doesn't approve. He says he's cut down hundreds of people just to satisfy his thirst, and he wants Toguro to duel him. Kenta comes to the rescue and tells him to deal with it. I'm taking him away. With the Aramaru completed, he gives it to Toguro and unlocks the Super Shinken Red form. Now this is something that at least all of them except for Kenta, and I'll explain why Kenta can't do it here in a minute, is able to do. They put the Aramaru on the hilt of the Shinkenmaru, and they get a white robe, and it looks really, really sweet. And it basically unlocks, like, their elemental powers to, like, a max extent. It increases their durability, it increases their mobility, increases their strength and everything. Now, like I said, the reason why Kenta can't do it is because, like I said, the Shinkenmaru's hilt that they used to slide into their holster is where the Aramaru gets put on. If I had a Shinkenmaru on me, I'd be able to show it to you easier. But Kenta obviously didn't know about the thing, so he never put a hilt on Shinkenmaru, so he can't use a super form unless he gets a Shinkenmaru. So there's no such thing as Super Shinken Gold. Now there is a picture of Shinken Gold wearing the white robe, but I think it was just to show this is what he looks like with it on. He can't. It's not possible though. He can use another form that I'll talk about later, which I still haven't been able to watch that. So this is done and done. Oh no, I'm not done with this yet. I'm getting ahead of myself already. With the Aramaru, they're able to unlock a new form for Shinkano. They basically form Daikaio with Shinkano to form Daikai Shinkano, and it's just the shrimp fused with the lion and bear origami, dragon and bear origami, and it's just much more powerful. It's the first time all six of them are in the cockpit together. So I'm gonna go off track of the season here for a little bit, because right in this area there is a movie. And why talk about the movie? Just do like what you did with the Digimon movies and talk about, well, it's because this movie actually has a bit of an impact on the story of Shinkenger overall. There's these things, these are these more powerful, Gidoshu. I forgot what their exact name was, and he's led by King, I'll just call him Blubber Nugget, because he's actually kind of fat. I forgot his name, I'm just calling him Blubber Nugget. And he's leading this charge. He's basically Dokuku's strongest general or something, who mans the strongest Gido. They can't beat him or his army, so they have to rely on finding the legendary discs left behind by the original Shinken Red. They go to the tower where this thing is supposed to be, and when they put it in, they're like, the Shinkenmaru plays back a hologram of him saying, "One day the true power will be held in front of you." Well, that tells them a lot, doesn't it? This was basically their ace in the hole. They couldn't stop them. They were getting manhandled. They were basically on the verge of losing the whole war. It was basically a war at this point. They couldn't beat them. They were at desperation mode, and then that was their last shot. So they decide to just charge in and take him out. Toguru goes straight for the guy and almost gets killed, but when he sees a cut in his left shoulder, he puts that disc on his Shinkenmaru and stabs him with it. That's what he was talking about. The original Shinken Red put the power of that disc inside him, stabs the Shinkenmaru with it, spins the disc, and it unlocks the Koryu disc, which is basically, they make it out to be a shark in Saumrai, but I want to say it's just a dragon thing, I guess. Koryu. Yeah, basically it's just a dragon thing. And when he spins the disc, we unlock Hyper Shinken Red, or Shark Attack Red Ranger from Saumrai. He's known as Hyper Shinken Red. He's basically got the same robe as Super, but it's red. And he has a new Koryu Maru. And this thing is probably one of the most powerful weapons I've ever seen. He slashes the dude, and then he just turns around, and the stupid thing stretches infinitely, taking out every single Gidoshu in this entire forest area. It stretches infinitely. There's no limit to how far this thing can stretch. It just keeps going. And this thing is just stupidly powerful. They end up killing him with Koryu Shinkano. And then that's that. Lame, right? Yeah. Like I said, this stuff is going to be established later. This is going to get brought up later. So, I'm trying to figure out. Okay. Okay, I'm on track here. The episode they come back is basically an episode where Godot puts people to sleep and puts them all in a dream world. Mako and Tayu are fighting here, and they both get put to sleep. Now, I'm only talking about this episode for one reason alone, and it's because we learn more about Tayu. Mako's in her dream area, and she sees this lady burn down the house of some dude saying, "How dare you leave me," or something. Like, this guy chose between her and someone else and chose this other girl, and she got jealous. And then he's basically dying in her arms, and then he still reaches for the other lady, and then she just goes insane. And then you see her turn into Tayu, and this dude turn into the banjo thing. And it freaks Mako out. We're like, what is going on here? Well, we find out that Tayu was once human, but she became so obsessed with this dude that she ended up falling to the Godot and became a Godoshu. And yes, this thing is that dude that she was in love with. That's why she holds onto it so dearly. She doesn't let the thing go at all. So Toguro is basically worn out for having to open up a portal into the dream world for Ryosuke and Shaki to go in and fight this thing. It burns all of his Mojikara down. They made a Toguro and Juuzo, back when Kenta had to save him, made a promise the next time they met they would duel. Well, Toguro is basically out cold here, and they meet up again. And Kento's like, no, 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 no. Do you see him here? And Juuzo was like, okay, fine. Tomorrow at noon, or by wherever, be there. Everybody except for Mako is against it because Mako saw Dayu's dream thing and she was kind of freaked. So she just went with it. So Toguro goes to fight Juuzo. He finally gets his wish. The fight is even. And Ryosuke goes Super Shinken Blue. But that was kind of not important to this episode. It was basically the fight between Toguro and Juuzo. They go at it. Toguro is pushed to the edge of a cliff, and he is put in danger. Toguro then basically sacrifices himself to an extent. Juuzo stabs him in the right shoulder. He drops his Shinken, cuts his chest, leaving Juuzo open. He cuts his chest and then breaks Yusimaro, which is his sword. His sword. And Juuzo's like, "Thank you, Shinken Red. This is the greatest pleasure." And just falls off the cliff. And Toguro is injured like crazy. You see the broken tip of Yusimaro in the ground. And that's it. Juuzo's gone. Right? 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 No, actually, no, it's not. So, the next episode, they fight some Godoshu that switches people around. I'm only bringing this episode to bring up one thing, because it leads into something with Shinken Gold. Shinken Gold basically gets switched with a thing of sushi. And the cat almost eats him, so he's freaking out. So, the next episode, Kenta's all freaking out, and you see him adding Mojikara to his little lantern that's hanging on his cart. We find out that all of a sudden Kenta has a fear of sushi because he's afraid of getting eaten. And like I said, his sushi changer looks like a thing of sushi. He folds it up and he tries to put the disc on it. And he sees it as sushi and he freaks out, so he can't turn to the Shinken Gold because he's afraid, so he decides to quit. Man, this guy's a nut. Kenta's awesome. He's really, really awesome. So they eventually, like, G and some of the I forgot what they're called. I'll just call them housekeepers. Those little dudes in the black robes and everything. I forgot what the names were called. I gotta wait to look at it real quick. Well, the Kuroku. Okay, they basically tie him down and shove a piece of sushi in his mouth, and then he's like, that's good," and then he gets over it. So then finishes adding Mojikara to his lantern. We get introduced to Daigoyo. This is basically his lantern come to life. He did it as like a partnership thing for him. He originally did it so they could have him instead of Shinken Gold, but he ends up becoming Shinken Gold's little partner. He's basically a lantern that holds discs, and he calls Kenta boss. So he's just a little goofy lantern guy that's hanging from the sushi cart, and he's just like bopping around and talking and all this stuff. He's funny. I like Daigoyo. And he can grow and turn in just like Daigoyo fighter mode or something. And this one time he like bounces the lion origami out of the way and fuses with the ape, turtle, bear, and dragon origami. That ticked Tagaru off a lot. Daigoyo is funny. It's really kind of hard to explain him. He's just a little bouncy lantern that kisses up to Kenta. So, I'm trying to think of where to put this. Around this point, we are introduced to... I'm trying to remember where he gets introduced. I'm going to say... Give me a second. I'm trying to make sure I get this right. Yeah, okay. So here we see someone come out of the Sanji River, which is where the Gadoshu live basically. He reveals himself to be Akamaru. He considers himself, well, he doesn't get, he says he's one of the original Gadoshu. He's been at the bottom of the Sanji River for so long, and he's become all-powerful. He wants to take over some of the jobs of fighting the Shinkenger. So Dokuku basically like, okay, go for it. He does some of his stuff until he tries to hunt down the Yushi origami, or the bull origami. It's basically being blocked up by this family that tried to prevent it from coming back out because the thing's a rampaging monster. Akamaru finds Dayu and says that Juuzo's still alive, so he uses those two as his little pawns to get what he wants. The bull origami is woken up. Juuzo and Dayu try to hold off the Shinkenger. Tagaru stunned that Juuzo is still alive. He uses the super Shinken Red power to try to get on board the bull that Shinkeno cannot stop at all. This thing is just too powerful. And he manages to use a disc that breaks its randomness, and they gain control over the thing. And it has a single form on its own called crap, what was this thing called again? This thing has a name. It's a robo form, has a giant name. Moi Gudaio. Great Bull King. Okay. I never knew the name of that form. And this thing is just stupid. It's got guns. It's got a gun. It's got a laser cannon on its head, and it blows things up. A few episodes later, Juuzo and Dayu deal with this one who's been eating things. They kill him because his second life is all powerful. It grows, and this thing is basically knocking Daikai Shinkano around. So Ryosuke gets the bright idea. I was like, why don't we put all of them together? They do so with Zen Samurai Gatai, forming Samurai Hao, which is the final mecha of the season. This thing is a cluster mess. The first time I saw it, I was like, what is this thing? Is it on this little mobile tractor thing because it's so bulky, too bulky to move, or what the heck? The thing is basically a samurai lord on his throne. That's what Samurai Hao is supposed to be. After I read that, I looked at it, I was like, oh, no, that really is what it is. It still looks really, really bulky. Look at videos of the toy, the original Shinkenger toy line thing for Samurai Hao. It's about that wide front to back and about that tall. It's stupid. G12 looks a lot better. And this thing just basically runs this guy over and kills him. I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. Akamaru fixes Juuzo's sword. I already forgot the name of it. Crap. Yushimara. He fixes it and says that I'm the one that gave the sword to you, and I gave it to you for a reason. The Shinkenger basically look at all the places he's attacked and remove the places that he didn't show up in, and he's forming this line of attacks across Japan. Basically, he wants to rip open a gate to the underworld, or hell, basically. He wants to have a taste for it. He's like, I want a taste of it. And then Chitaru's like, that could kill us and the humans. He's like, I don't care. It's a sacrifice worth it. And everybody's like, you are insane. And he really is insane. And he made Juuzo, he gave Juuzo the sword to be the way to open the gateway up. He tells Juuzo that this thing is, the sword is made from his family. And he holds that against Juuzo, saying that this is why you should cooperate with me. Shinkengers are like right there trying to stop Juuzo and Akamaru from opening this gateway. And Juuzo turns around and cuts Akamaru. And he's like, why did you do that? He's like, oh, I knew this was my family the whole time. I don't care. And it's like, what? You've been killing hundreds of people with the sword you knew was made from the spirits of your family. This guy's nuts. Juuzo's got issues, man. He's demented. So with the new their gun, it's basically the gun that Shinken Red uses, made from the bull origami. I'm not calling it the bullzooka. Screw you, people. I'm just gonna call it the bull cannon. I don't care. I forgot what its name was for some reason. So Akamaru's basically like about to die. So the Shinkenger finish him off. He grows. They form Samurai Hao, and Samurai Hao can't beat him. So then they activate the Koryu disc and use the Koryu disc on Samurai Hao, introducing Koryu Samurai Hao. And I got Samurai Hao with that stupid sword that's just the godsend, and that makes mincemeat of Akamaru, and he dies. Dokuku ends up coming out right before Akamaru dies to fix Daiu's banjo thing, because he got severely injured at one point. So they have fought Dokuku already, and he murdered them. I mean, he just bowled through the Shinkenger like nothing. So Akamaru's dead. We begin the final arc of Shinkenger with one of the last remaining Giddo. It's one that can fire energy blasts. She gives him a thing filled with fire emoji Kara. How Shitaru managed to get his hands on something like this is beyond me. At this point, Dokuku is underwater because when he left the Sanji River to fix Taru's thing, he got severely weakened. The Gedo feed off of the Sanji River water. They get dried up after a while and they have to retreat to refreshen themselves. Seeing how Dokuku's so powerful, he has to, he has to take a longer dip. This is when Akumaru did his little open the gateway thing when Dokuku is gone. So Dokuku's not here for this. He sends this monster out to kill Shinken Red, as in shooting him with this fire emoji car thing, to overload the emoji car within Takuru and kill him by having him burst into flames with his own fire energy, which is actually really, really smart. But when they shoot him, he's getting burned, and Takuru manages to do a sacrifice hit. He takes the hit, turns around, shoots her with the bazooka, kills her, and he's badly wounded. But they're wondering why he didn't catch in the flames and completely die. Before all this happened, actually, I don't know why I skipped this, they had gotten a letter that put G and Takuru very, very suspicious, or worried, or whatever. And then we immediately find out why. A girl comes in and turns herself into Shinken Red. She's then revealed to be the true 18th head of the Shiba clan, Shibakaru. We find out in the next episode that Takuru was a shadow. Basically, he was a fake. Dokuku has been sealed away by previous Shinken Reds. She is the real heir to the clan. She is the real Shinken Red. She was taken away to learn the sealing symbol, to seal Dokuku away, to seal him away forever, basically. And Toguru was the shadow, the one to fill the whole spot until the time was needed for the real Shinken Red to appear. So that explains why Toguru was questioning why they were getting in his way to protect him, why he felt bad about having them team up with him. This whole time he was upset and worried that they're getting themselves injured for him and all this stuff. Why he didn't want teammates in the first place is because he didn't want, he didn't want these guys to get injured protecting him when he's not a real lord. So we kind of find out a lot about why Toguru was like this most of the season. Toguru basically gets kicked out, and the other 5 get really, really upset at this. They don't like Karu, but they team up with her anyway. Kenta's basically kicked out too because he's not a real samurai technically. So Toguru ends up helping some people and he runs into Juuzo again. With Yusamara fixed, they go into another duel. And this duel is very hard to watch, especially if you've grown really fond of the characters, because Toguru is fighting like Juuzo. He's fighting for the pleasure in it. And he slowly starts falling into the Gedo. They managed, the Shinkengers run across Dokuku here. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself again. They have, the Shinkengers find out where Toguru is fighting Juuzo at. So they go and hunt him down, try to stop Toguru. Toguru knocks Yusamara out of his hand, slashes him right down the center, and he blows up. Toguru's sitting there, and he gets back up, and Toguru's like, why won't you die? And he starts walking to him, and then Yusamara gets stabbed in his foot. His family basically had taken over the store and told him it's enough. Juuzo finally gets cut in half and dies. You can see Toguru starting to glow red, as in he's falling to the Gedo, so they get him out of there and manage to heal him. They have a very emotional talk about them wanting him to be their lord no matter what they say. So they team up with Princess Shinken Red, is what everybody calls her, to take on Dokuku because he has returned. The Sanji River has overflown. No, it's not yet anyway. Dokuku has confronted the Shinkenger again. Hyper Shinken Green, Super Shinken Blue, Gold, Yellow, and Pink. Try to hold off Dokuku long enough for the seal to work. Before they fight him, though, Taiyu basically gives up her life. Her thing's broken. It's destroyed. He absorbs her. Taiyu's dead. The sealing character is then inflicted on Dokuku, and it doesn't work because Taiyu was part human. She was human to begin with, so now Dokuku has some human elements in him. The seal works on 100% Godot. He's not 100% Godoshu anymore, so the sealing character does not work anymore. So now they are screwed. All of Karu's practice and training and everything, down the pooper. You just wasted 17 years of your life. Congratulations. Here's a certificate of you suck. Karu gets injured out the wazoo. That sounded really, really stupid. But she's basically put into a state where she cannot walk. She talks to Tagaru, and she says she steps down. She tells everybody she steps down. Her little kiss of Blackie over here that I hate says, well, they need a Shinken Red. How can the Shinkenger fight without a Shinken Red? She's like, Tagaru, but he's a shadow. He's not air. He can't be a real lord. And she tells him, like, I adopted him. He's now my son. I stepped down. He's next in line. Which is kind of funny because Tagaru's older than she is. I'll let that one sink in for a little bit. My mom is 2 years younger than me. Was it Futurama all over again? Fry's his own grandfather. Oh boy. That was really hard to let sink in for a while there, but yeah. So now Tagaru is the 19th head, officially now. They go into battle with a plan of killing Dokuku or dying themselves. They head in, Dokuku blows them up. They can't get a disc with the sealing character on it that Karu made to work. So Dokuku runs off. They chase him down. Mr. Kiss Up to Karu over here gives them another disc that she made with the sealing character, along with a disc that he made that had double written on it. He gives the sealing character disc to Ryosuke, which was pretty clever. He takes the double disc, puts it on the Rekadaisanto, and it makes a clone of the Rekadaisanto. So now he's fighting Dokuku with 2 of them, and he's using these things one-handed, which looks really stupid. And if you look closely at this fight scene, when he's fighting Dokuku with the 2 Rekadaisantos, if you look at Shinken Red's shadow, you'll see that he's just holding the handle. Those Rekadaisantos are obviously computer generated. It's funny if you pay attention, if you look at that. And then Ryosuke comes and stabs his wound with the disc, spins it, and then slashes him. Dokuku blows them out of costume and grows. Second life. Final bout. Samurai Ha-Oh versus Dokuku, and Samurai Ha-Oh gets blown to pieces into Daikai Shinkano. The plan is now this. He's too powerful for us. He's too powerful. We have to get close enough and put all of our Mojikara into one swing. So that's what they do. They start charging. They're holding their Mojikara in. Samurai Ha-Oh is blown into Daikai Shinkano. Yeah. Daikai Shinkeno. Daikai Shinkeno is then blown into Shinkeno. Basic Shinkeno. Dokuku is getting really mad because he can't stop. They won't stop moving closer. He's just getting irritated. They get right in front of Dokuku. Dokuku stabs Shinkeno in the stomach. They put all their Moji Car into one swing. Dead. He grips Shinkeno's helmet, telling them that they'll die even without him around. And then overkill explosion like every good final baddie should do. The Sanji River recedes back into the Sanji River. Shitaru is still alive. We will see him die later to the Go-Kaiger. I just spoiled an aspect of the Go Save Your Shinkenger movie. The Shinkenger go their own ways, and the season ends on that note. I kind of brushed over it, even though it took me an hour almost to talk about the story. This is turning into my crosswords review all over again. I won't stop talking. I mumble. I'm sorry. I ramble. Once I get started talking about something I like, I won't shut up about it. That's why you don't get into a Sonic the Hedgehog conversation with me. You will never get me to shut up. So, like I said, this is my favorite season for many reasons why. And this is one, like I said, I've got many reasons. One, the characters are awesome. Toguru is a deep character where you have to pay attention. You won't understand why he is what he is until Karu shows up. He's the Lord. He grows closer to the rest of his team over time, but he questions why they're helping him out. They don't question why he's thinking that until Princess Shinken Red shows up, obviously. He just goes with it. He's had that over his head the entire time, and it kind of shows. He's a great Red. I mean, he's a really, really good Red Ranger, Shinken Red. That's why I got his figure art. I'm trying to get Shinken Golds, too. I've got a whole list of figure arts that I want to get, and the ones that I want them to make. Go on Red. Make a Go on Red, dang you. Ryosuke Shinken Blue is the kiss-up. He's the loyal Ranger to the Red Ranger. He's the one who will do whatever it takes to get better, do whatever it takes to win, do whatever it takes to help Toguru. And he's also kind of comedic relief because he is a nutcase. When he does something wrong, he will break. That's all I'm going to say. He'll just break. Shake is the rival ranger. His job, along with trying to finish off the Godot, is to become stronger than Toguru. He's basically the clown, the one that doesn't care half the time. He just kind of wants to do things his own way, and he eventually settles into becoming a loyal member of the Shinkenger. Mako is the calm mother figure. She's the one that's there for everybody when they need help. She's there to calm down Kotaha, because Kotaha looks at her as a big sister. So does Shake. Shake basically takes her in as a sister as well. And she's the only one that can figure out when something's wrong with Toguru and break him. Like whenever he's down, Mako's the only one that can get him to start thinking. So she plays a lot into Toguru's development. Kotaha is the sweet little girl who doesn't seem like she'd hurt anybody. She has self-esteem problem at the beginning because her sister was originally supposed to be Shinken Yellow, but she got really, really ill, and she had to take over. So she doubts herself a lot, and the others, over the span of the season, begin to give her reasons to believe in herself, and she ends up becoming a really, really cool character. Kenta is a nut. He develops in weird ways. Like, he develops in the direction of being a true samurai and working together with others. Sorry about that weird breaks there. My stupid recorder was like, "You have reached an hour. We're going to stop you." So, I'm gonna kind of end this right now because I know this has gone on way too long, and I'm sorry about that. I don't blame you if you stop at about half an hour and then come back and finish this later. I'm sorry that this had to be an hour long, but at least I'm not what's his face that does the history of Power Rangers series, where his reviews of each season go on for like what, an hour and a half for each season. When is your Mystic Force one going to be up? Dang it. But you got to go into some kind of detail when you talk about a review, and I like going into details on stuff, so just go with it. So, Shinkenger. The story is in detail. Remember when I said about Jetman that the thing that made Jetman so good character-wise was that the fact there was character development, there was development inside the team, and then there was character development and then team development within inside the Vyram. That applies here as well. The Gadoshu, especially Dayu and Juuzo, don't necessarily have development, but they have backstories. And it pushes along the theme of Shinkenger, basically. That the characters have deep backstories. Every character has something hindering on them that drives them forward. And it's a very, very deep season that I think everybody should take the time to sit down and watch. I know that Jetman is considered by many to be the best season, but there's something about Shinkenger to me that does it better than Jetman. It's an emotional roller coaster with twists that'll make you tear up, actually. Like when Taguru came back and Karu made him the 19th head of the Shiba clan. When I was watching Shinkenger the first time, I got off my chair and I bowed with everybody else saying, "He's my lord too, screw you people." It was one of those seasons where when I was watching it, I just knew that this was my season. And I think a lot of people can say that about other shows. When you watch it, and the minute it ends, you know that it's your season. And this is what I said about Shinkenger. Do not judge this season off of Power Rangers Samurai. I've seen the first two episodes of Samurai, I mean like the origin two-parter, to compare openings. Samurai is lacking that energy and that emotion. Shinkenger is worth the ride. If you have not seen Shinkenger, watch it. You'll be doing yourself a justice. Just like if you watch Jetman, you'll be doing yourself a justice to yourself. It's a fantastic season with emotional points, dramatic points, intense points. I mean, points in the season, and just moments that'll make you cheer, cry, laugh. It's got it all. Shinkenger really has it all going for it. So, it's my favorite season for a reason, and I'm going to shut up now because this video is way too long. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, so, what's next on my review list? Probably Power Rangers. Go-Onger will be coming up soon. I've been getting into rewatching old Power Ranger seasons and watching the seasons of Power Rangers that I missed, aka Wild Force through Samurai. I haven't seen any of those. Time Force was the last season I watched while it was airing until Mega Force started. So, RPM will be reviewed. Lightspeed Rescue will be reviewed because I finished watching Lightspeed Rescue a while back. I'm currently rewatching In Space and watching SPD for the first time. So those will be happening. The next Sentai seasons I might be reviewing will either be Deca Ranger, Go-Onger, or Geki Ranger, depending on which ones I decide to watch first. Kamen Rider is a possibility. I'm beginning to watch Forze just because I love astronomy. So Kamen Rider might be getting into this channels too. And for those of you that don't know about the Power Rangers action card game, I've actually gotten really into this card game, so I might be doing little tutorials on how to, play with this team, or like deck building strategies and whatnot. And I'll be reviewing each set as they come out and everything. I'll be doing that. I'll be talking about some toys. I might do a little review of Shinken Red over here. I may not touch Gridman because he's... You know how hard it was to get him to sit there? So I'll be doing some of that stuff. So I've got a lot on my plate. I've got school. I've got about a month or so left of the semester, so I'm sorry if things don't come out here, like if videos start a little bit slow here until summer vacation starts. RPM and Lightspeed Rescue should be up within the next month. When is whenever the heck I get around to it, so look for those. I might be putting up little goofy things here and there, like Power Ranger card game stuff. Okay. And I'm going to go on a little bit of a Shinken homage here. This brings this act to a close. See you guys.